Why should the consumer and the politician care about ORC? Just a generic question for the public. Denny?
I think the only statistics we have are from 2009. Correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, but the tens and tens of millions of dollars that each state loses in tax revenues that could go toward keeping these law enforcement officers employed rather than lay them off. And you're talking about some small communities that this ORC problem is going to take $30,000, $50,000 out of their community.
Well, in Colorado just said in their press release Friday, $18 million a year in sales tax.
Exactly. And that is about average, I would think, per state. That you're looking at, you know, $15 to $20 million per state in taxes. And I think the politicians, once they understand that, they get their head around that, I think they become more in tune to what we want to do, is give us more tools to keep that money in your state by taking out the fencing operations. But I think the loss of revenue for tax purposes is enormous.
You know, Gus, I think there's a number of reasons why this is a problem for everybody: consumers, legislators, law enforcement, professionals, and retailers. I mean, it really all starts with, as a basic consumer, when you go to the store or the mall, you're looking for a specific item, it's not available. That's a customer service problem. It could literally change the shopping habits of an individual. If they never have the razor blades on the shelf, if Barnes & Noble never has the book that you want, if Home Depot never has the tool you need, you'll go shop somewhere else. So now that's lost sales revenue for the store. It's an inventory shrinkage problem for the retailer. More importantly, for law enforcement, it's lost tax revenue. That 5, 6, 7, 8% that would come in the form of general tax revenue for the state is now lost. It goes to a bodega, or it's sold online with no sales tax revenue whatsoever. In the case of fraudulent returns, we actually pay the sales tax back to the criminal. They're pulling that money out, they're paying full retail back plus sales tax. So now you're pulling money out. I think any law enforcement agency would have a real problem if you told them that we're going to cut or give criminals 8% of your budget every year. And then finally, you know, we talked about some of these consumable items, or items that come with specific safety labels, from toys to diabetic test strips to infant formula. And when you talk about the storage conditions or people altering the packaging, it's a real challenge, a real problem for safety, consumer safety. Criminals don't care. They're not held to the same regulations and requirements for storage and safety warnings that a legitimate retailer would be accountable for. So you have the financial loss, you have the tax and public crime issues that take place, and then the safety initiatives.
And the safety issue extends worldwide.
That's right.
Worldwide.
That's right. And you know, and I think everyone hit on some of the key federal issues, from money laundering, money that may be funding foreign enterprises, not always connected to terrorism, but certainly we know money has been funneled to the Middle East, to groups like Hezbollah and Hamas. When you talk about human trafficking or the drug issues in the local community, you know, a drug user that's paid to steal merchandise from the store, when they walk out the door and a 30-year-old store manager confronts them, and that person turns violent, verbally or physically abusive, you now have a safety issue, you now have a potential customer service problem, and not to mention, I think everybody in the industry, we're always looking for good press. But it seems to be the negative incident, the crime stories are always the front page, which is why a lot of companies are hesitant to talk about loss prevention issues. But it's just equally a call to action for everybody to put this problem front and center, to say this is hitting every community in the country, every retailer. Nobody's immune from this. It's a problem that we're all in this together.
5 years ago, our industry did not have the teams that it has now. I mean, literally, we have 75 people in ORC within these 4 companies alone. Okay, so we've come a long way. The retailers are responding. All of you are dedicated to it. You know, if you had a bag of tricks and you could pull out one thing, what would it be now in order to combat the ORC problem? What would be that one thing that you would like to do, in addition to what you're already doing? Denny?
I would like the associates in the store have more contact with the people coming in the store. We've interviewed a lot of boosters who say that had they been approached by associates in the store, they probably would have ditched it and left the product in the store and just walked out. And I think associate interaction with the boosters, it goes a long way.
So it would be increased associate interaction with customers?
Yes.
That would be your trick?
And yes, I think based on the information we have from the boosters, if associates engage them in conversation in the store, they will abandon their theft and leave the store.
Scott?
Piggyback on what Denny said, the overall awareness within the store, if I'm speaking to a loss prevention agent, they have a significant ability to impact how a store associate responds to the daily activities. Chain's only as strong as the weakest link. And I can recall 25 years ago when I was a young LP agent, I knew who those weak links were within the store that generally just didn't care too much about their job and their role in customer service. Those people need to be called out at any cost, because those folks that steal in organized groups, or the professional shoplifters in general, they target the stores where they find those individuals. And they're going to come back and continue to hit you again and again and again. And I think that the LP agent has a great ability to impact that decision locally within their store.
Deb?
I think to piggyback on all those great ideas, I think it's also driving awareness. So awareness to the store associates, the leadership teams within each individual building to better understand in today's environment what ORC looks like, what the professional shoplifter is doing to the profits of their store, so that they're not misconceived that, yeah, I know I have a shoplifter every now and again, maybe taking tools, but I don't think they clearly get the picture of how complex that is and how often that may be. So it's really driving awareness, which will then drive the customer service and preventative measures on the front side.
And Nelson Hara?
I concur with everything my peers said. It's a very consistent pattern. We're working a mall undercover, which is our bread and butter, literally throughout the entire mall. The retailers, and sometimes ours, that get hit the hardest don't have that lack of presence up front. And I understand staffing, budgets are cut, sales, but if you have somebody that's really, truly great at generating sales and very interactive with the customers, the professionals, at least for the professional standpoint, are not going to take the time. They're discouraged by that. They move on. You have your habitual offenders are going to grab and run out to a car, but the real good professionals are going to be deterred by that. Almost 100% of the time. We've seen a good, great sales associate at the front of that store engage with the customers. They'll try, they'll wait for a few minutes, and they just move on to the next target.
Joe?
I concur, and I'll take a slightly different track. I think as an industry, we need a laser focus on the emerging technologies that we're seeing come down the pipe. Skimming technology, the old black boxes are now becoming little square cubes that you attach to your cell phone. The point of sale, the register, is going to be mobile, and it's going everywhere, including the fitting room and potentially outside the store.
And last week, Google Wallet was hacked.
That's right. And you have issues where receipts that we've relied on as an industry as authentication, and we've secured the paper and watermarked it, will now be your paper right from your home printer. And the credit card technology as we know it, it will all change in the next 5 years. We're going to touchless pay and mobile pay, EMV or chip and pin technology that we see in Europe and other countries. If we're not on top of this technology in the future of our business, I think we're going to see a huge spike on the fraud side of the house. But we also know that the criminals are getting good with their hacking abilities and theft prevention or theft enabling technologies, jamming devices, and other tools, tricks of the trade, if you will. We need to stay on top of that as an industry, and I think all of us at every level of the stores up through the national task forces are going to have to really take an interest in these.
The last question for all of you. You have a young person, 25 years old, a loss prevention manager of a big box store. What message do you want to send that young executive? Nelson, why don't you start?
Well, follow your dream. I mean, again, I fell into it. You know, I didn't have any ORC experience whatsoever, you know, up until about 11 years ago, and just kind of self-taught, and had found great mentors. But if they find ORC as something they want to get involved in, they want that as a career path, they've got to communicate to that supervisors. They've got to communicate that. There are some great training programs now, onboarding, joint task forces throughout the country, ORCAs. They've got a lot of opportunity to learn that trade if they want to, that skill set.
Deb?
I think for me, it'd be, adaptation to change, flexibility to change. You know, when we look at our careers and we look at how shrink has changed over the years, ORC has now surfaced, and even within ORC, that's changing daily. You know, so it's really recognizing it all starts with that LPAP manager in the box, front line, first one to see it, and first one to recognize and attention to the details. So it's going to start in his or her building. So really the first line of defense for us.
Deb just said everything I was going to say. I think that the loss prevention managers in the store have to make certain that, I don't care what you call them, a loss prevention specialist, store detective, that those people understand what ORC is, and that someone taking out 11 Tide, that's a lot of laundry detergent for one household. They have to recognize that they are our front line of defense for ORC. And if they miss it, probably everybody else is going to miss it. So I would say make sure that the specialists making the apprehensions are aware of what is going on when people do go past all points of sale, and they make that apprehension. Can they, and they should, because they should own it, is this ORC? And I think that's our first line of defense.
Scott?
I think the answer is threefold, Gus. If you're a young LP agent and this is really your chosen profession and you love it, the passion's there, I say jump in head first, learn as much as you possibly can about the job itself. Embrace technology and don't be bashful, network. You know, we've got great things available today that weren't when I was 25 years old. LinkedIn is a fantastic forum to learn from others. Who says that you have to only learn from people within your own organization? You know, we're not the only professionals in ORC at this table right now. There's a lot of them out there. There's some very, very good programs. And those people can teach a lot. I can honestly tell you, anytime someone's ever reached out to me on LinkedIn, whether it's an LPM or an LPS, and they ask to link in, I link in with them. If they have questions, I answer. I've actually had people call me and I've talked with them. So, you know, they can learn a lot from our experience, and I would encourage them to do so.
How about you, Joe?
You know, I would say that every single opportunity you have in this business to learn from someone else. I have learned from each of the folks sitting at the table, including you, about loss prevention, about my interaction with people, with the law enforcement community, and just play the role of a sponge and take as much information, but make sure you always give back too. There's a lot of new people following you in the industry. You can be as a student and a teacher at the same time. And I don't think as much as I talk about some of these issues, I would never pretend to know it all. I'm learning every single day, and the industry is constantly changing. And a new person, they can learn all of this as well, and then make sure they give back a little bit too.
Well done. Well, I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to meet with us and sharing this information with the LP community. And that's it for this series of ORC leaders attending the La Orca conference here in Los Angeles. I'd like to thank you for watching. And until next time, remember, it's all about the partnerships you're building in those stores that'll make you successful. Thanks for listening.